Okay, for markup, you tap on the three dots and select markup. To draw a perfect circle, just draw a circle and then wait for the perfect circle on the right to show up down below. You can make it bigger and smaller. If you use the side dots, you'll change the shape of it. To draw a square, it's the same thing. And then select the perfect one. Draw an arrow. It's important that you never take your hand off the paper. Draw the entire arrow in one stroke. If you do it right, you'll get these. You can also draw a star, and an oval. I'll very quickly show you just a couple more things using markup in iOS 10. The first one is just creating text and putting a cool box around it, which I actually love the way that it works in iOS 10 better than the way that it works in iOS 11, because you can't do an automatic box anymore. You have to physically create a box and place it around it, whereas in iOS 10 you just create a word and then you can select one of 3 different line thicknesses and have the box automatically be put around it. And what I really love about it is it's always just perfectly placed. When you put your own box around it, you have to kind of move it around and try and get it placed properly, whereas when iOS does it for you, it's always perfectly centered, perfectly placed, and it looks very professional, I think. So, that is an example of how you do that. Then I would show you how you can change colors too, because it can be a little buggy in iOS 10, and it was unclear to me when I was first doing it, because I keep tapping on something over and over and try and get it to change colors, and it wouldn't change. So I thought maybe I was doing something wrong. But it's just buggy, and if you know that, if you keep tapping on the little colored dot, eventually it will pull up the entire colored palette for you. You can either change color for the pen tool or for text before you go to create a shape or type some text, or you can type some text or create a shape first and then select that particular object and then tap on the color palette and pick a different color. So I'm actually demonstrating both methods here for you. First, I've chosen the red, and then I'm going to create a red circle. I'm going to turn it into a perfect circle first. Then in a little while, after I demonstrate a couple more things with the arrow, I will change the color for you and show you how you use that method. But first, I want to show you a couple more cool things with arrows. So I'm going to create another arrow and make it a perfect arrow. And then I wanted to show you how you can move it around, change the size of it and manipulate it, and keep it as a straight arrow or make it a curvy arrow. To move an arrow or a line and keep it perfectly straight, it's important that you don't grab it near the green dot in the middle. I made this little diagram to demonstrate the 3 different ways that you can move an arrow or a line. This actually applies to iOS 11 markup too. I realized after the fact that my diagram misses a 4th way, which is to make a line or an arrow longer. So I'm going to demonstrate first making an arrow longer or shorter, which you use the 2 end blue dots for, and also moving it in a stepped fashion. When doing this stepped movement, you're actually pivoting the line or the arrow around a dot. So if you think of it like that, the pivot motion in and of itself can be useful to you for certain things. It's super easy when you're moving things in Markup to accidentally just create a random line or dot somewhere. So you kind of need to be on the lookout for that, because undoing is the best way to get rid of it, which you need to do right after you've done it. To undo something, just look for the U-shaped arrow. It can be in any corner depending upon which application you're accessing Markup from. In this instance, it's in the bottom right corner. The second movement that you can make with a line or an arrow is to move the entire unit smoothly, as opposed to in the kind of stepped, jerky movement that we just discussed. I made this entire diagram primarily for this one seemingly insignificant movement. Trust me when I tell you that remembering how to do this one specific movement will really serve you well in the end. I forgot and spent half the afternoon trying to remember how to do it in order to finish this video for you. One reason why it's so important is because it seems like the natural tendency of lines and arrows is to want to curve. If you don't grab an arrow or a line object in exactly the right place, it's going to automatically curve on you, and correcting a curve can be difficult. Maybe difficult's not the right word. Let's say time-consuming. Creating curved lines from straight ones happens so frequently accidentally that I feel a little silly demonstrating it here, but for the sake of thoroughness, I will. You basically grab the green dot in the middle and drag it any which way. So the last movement I'm going to demonstrate is actually number 2 on my chart. It's by far the hardest movement to figure out on your own. But if you look closely at my chart, you'll understand exactly how to do it. Surprisingly, this movement ends up being perhaps the most useful movement also. The last thing I wanted to demonstrate was something I didn't finish earlier on, and that was creating a shape or a line in one color and then changing it to another color. So as you can see, I just created this rectangle. The rectangle is selected. You can tell that by the blue dots. Once it's selected, if I open the color palette and tap on another color, voila, it's changed colors. I made this video for Markup iOS 10 because it's so much harder to learn than iOS 11. And truthfully, I'm still mostly using iOS 10, but I am going to publish my 11 videos soon. Thanks for watching.